our next step is to create new blocks, new platforms that will fall down as you progress, as you continue going upwards, right? So these games, you usually have these new platforms that keeps appearing when you keep jumping up this way. And the way we're going to do it is by creating a state machine that generates new platforms, probably somewhere around the top, and so we can visually see it. And to do that, we have to make some adjustments first, right? So let's do that first. First of all, I need to create a prefab based on this platform, right? As we talked about last week, a prefab is something that you can continue to reuse, continue to generate when you need them in the game. And they're all going to have identical properties, they're going to have the same components, so that you don't have to keep recreating the same things. But there are a few things that we need to watch out for when we create a prefab. So let me just show it to you now. Let's drag this platform. So we're pretty happy with this one. And let's drag it into the project view. Okay, now we've created a prefab, a platform prefab, and you can see that this platform here has got blue tag indicating that this is connected. This is now connected to a prefab. But if we select the prefab and go to Playmaker, actually let me rearrange things a little bit. I'm going to put the project folder there. See if I can change this a bit. It's okay. So I have the platform selected. Go to Playmaker. Right, and I can see my state machine here. And let's go to the collider control. Okay, so far so good. Sometimes when you create a prefab from an object that's got other objects linked to it, for example, we already have in this prefab, we have these get positions created that's linked to objects in the scene. Sometimes when you create a prefab, it would sort of not remember those objects, and certain times you have to change the way it's set up, but it seems to be okay so far. So we're going to leave it as is. Actually, now you can see the problem. Problem is starting to happen. Okay, here we go. So it might not be immediately obvious, but you can see that we're missing a game object here. We're not having a problem with getting the top point because the top point is part of the prefab, so it's part of this object. So the prefab has no problem finding it, right? It's part of this, but prefabs are by default not part of the scene, right? So anything that's connected to the scene is going to get disconnected. Anything that's from the scene is going to get disconnected. And now we can see that the error checker has caught up to the problems. Right, so we're missing game objects here. And let's just fix them one by one. Right, so the first three are actually the same object, the same problem. Right, so the first three are we need the get position game object to be defined, and if we take a look at this, okay, I'm going to enlarge this. The one that's missing is the one where we put the foot point of the player object. Right, so that's the one that's missing. Same thing here. Missing the foot point, missing the foot point. Right. So the way to adjust for that is we're going to use a find game object action, and we're going to put a tag on the foot point so that we can find that object when the game is running. So let's do that first. Let's go to the foot point and add a new tag. Right. Go to the foot point again, foot, right? And then let's go to the prefab, platform prefab. And in the initialization state, we're going to go to action browser, and we're going to get object. Find game object. Here we go. We're going to find game object, and we're going to do foot, right? So we're going to find a game object that has the tag foot, and we need to add a new variable, a new game object variable, and call this foot point object. Okay, so coming back to the state, we find the object with the tag foot, and we're going to store it in the foot point object. And here, instead of defining it down here, we're just going to select, we're going to click on this button and then select foot point object. Right, so what that does is instead of dragging that foot point object into this option field here, we've defined a variable that represents the game object, and we've used this find game object action to find it in the scene. Now we have to remember, prefabs are not directly in the scene, right? So the prefab can be used in a variety of different scenes. So oftentimes the objects that are directly from the hierarchy is not going to show up. But using this method, we can tell the system to dynamically find the object, right? So when the game is running, the system will go here, initialization, and find that object for you. Just a quick note, if you have to use find game object, try to do it in an initialization state, meaning try to do it only once in a state machine. Otherwise, because it takes a bit more performance power to find a game object, so you don't want to overdo it. Okay, now the nice thing about this is now we've got that object stored in the variable. We can just use that in these two places as well. Okay, so we fixed those errors. Now let's see what the next one is. Okay, so this is the one about jumping, and the one that's missing is the player object. Remember, we added added force to the player object so it would go up. Now I'm going to use the same technique. So I'm going to define a game object variable, player object, and also I'm going to add a new state called initialization. And the sole purpose of this is to find a game object with the tag player. Player is a predefined tag, so that's good. I'm going to right click on this and then set this as the start state. So when the game starts, it'll go here first. And then when we finish, we go to the loop here. Right, and then let's come down here and just select the player object here. Okay. So again, when the game starts, we'll go to the initialization state, find player, store it in a player object variable, and then continue. Now finally, we're going to tag this object as a player object. Okay, so I think we've fixed all the errors there. Save. Good.